Allie, welcome to Locked In. You drove here from Ohio to be here today.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This is your first ever podcast, right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And you did indeed go to prison. The audience isn't going to believe it. They're going to think you're a 60 days in contestant looking at you. But,
Yes.
you know, the criminal justice system does not discriminate.
No.
So did you grow up in Ohio?
Yes, born and raised.
Where in Ohio?
Akron.
Akron.
The city of alcoholics.
Is that really what they call it?
Well, that's where AA was founded.
Oh,
So
really?
Yeah, normally people are like, oh, you're from the alcoholic city. You're like, where they found that? I'm like, I guess.
How did you know about that? Did you look into that?
So, yeah, they have this annual thing every year in Ohio. Like, it was literally down the road from my childhood home. Like, the marathons, the bikers, everything. They would come in from different states to honor AA and, this annual festival. It wasn't my thing, but it was interesting later on.
Who were you raised by?
Dad, mainly. Mom left the picture around my teenage years.
What did your dad do for work?
So he worked in I don't know an exact title for it, but he worked like second and third shift in like a manufacturing company as a supervisor. So, I mean, he did all right, especially for raising my brother and I later on.
And how many siblings did you have total?
So it was just me and my brother, his children. Then my older sister, she has a different dad. She was raised by my grandparents.
And did you have a close relationship with your mom at all before the teenage years, or?
No. It was just, it wasn't okay. Like, you could never be too close to her because she wasn't that type of person.
Mm.
So it honestly was a relief when she left.
And you haven't had any communication with her since? Or?
Not since 2018.
Oh, wow.
I'm relieved.
Okay.
So.
Well, as long as you're happy then.
Yeah.
Were you and your brother close growing up?
Push came to shove when we had our moments. Like, no one was allowed picking on him. No one was allowed, just me. So, I had his back, but when we were at home, he was kind of like resistant because our mom wasn't around. So I had to take on the role to help him. He's mentally slow. You can tell it's from fetal alcohol syndrome. So he's, I don't want to say borderline handicap, but he is. And he needed that additional help. He moved to Colorado, so I haven't seen him in years.
You guys still talk? Oh.
No, his husband doesn't want him communicating with the family.
Really? Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. But, I'm not going to force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. If he wants to reach out, that's on him. Can't force someone to do that.
Well, maybe he'll see this and it'll inspire him to reach out.
We'll see.
So how would people describe you as a kid? What were you like back then?
I was mischievous. I really was. So funny story. This is a good example of me as a kid. When my brother was little, he wasn't crawling yet. So I'm about 3.5 or 4, about 4. And my dad was watching us. My mom was at work. He went upstairs to the bathroom. My brother's sleeping on the floor. So I looked upstairs. I looked back at my brother and shoved him under the couch. He's sleeping. This kid could sleep through anything. So my dad comes back downstairs and I'm like, Daddy, where's Ryan? Like, he's freaking out and nothing coming from me. So he's calling and finding out, not calling my mom, but like my grandma, law enforcement, trying to figure out where my brother is. He thought his ex-wife took my brother. So he started stirring under the couch after I don't know how long, but this just describes his parenting. He started stirring up under the couch and I look up, I was like, there he is. And my dad's like, he knew I did it because my brother wasn't crawling yet. So that just kind of describes me as a kid, that a prankster, rotten to a point, because I could do that with my dad. He didn't punish me hard, but when it came to discipline, push comes to shove, he would.
Now, in high school, did you have career aspirations, what you wanted to do in life, college, all of that?
So my dad kind of pushed me towards the healthcare field, but then IT. I went with the healthcare field. It's what I knew, and I did not like it. So I spent years working in behavioral health. It was very intriguing. I became like a behavioral specialist, doing assessments, care plans, things like that. Because I went to Kent State University for psychology after I decided halfway through nursing school, no, I don't want to do this. So
Kent State's for nursing, right? Or
no, it has a nursing program. It's a really good nursing program.
My cousin went there for nursing.
Really?
Yeah.
They have a really good psychology program too.
Okay. And you ended up getting your diploma there and graduating and all that?
Yeah, I had 2 associate degrees as well.
And you're not even using them probably now,
Not
right?
anymore.
That's funny. So what happens after college? Where does life take you?
So I worked in psychiatry for a while. Never a dull moment. Never. Even the doctor was a head case himself. So I'm not going to drop names, but yeah, he was. I mean, people like that, they go into behavioral health, have something of their own that they battle. But, one of the cases, one of the patients that really stood out to me, he really didn't have a support system, but he accidentally shot his friend. They had guns laying out on the table. And so he's 12 years old. Him and his friend, neighborhood friend, they're playing with the guns, not supervised, nothing. Shot and killed his friend.
Wow.
So he was in his 20s when I met him. He, so many times he tried to commit suicide. And then his mom not handling life at all. And she was a patient there too. And he had to take care of her. And I kind of encouraged him. He was looking for jobs. I gave him a list of jobs to where he could start. And I saw, something spark where he felt encouraged. That made me feel better because the next time I saw him, he was in a better state of mind. I was like, if I could have that influence on people, that's what I want to do. So, and there was other cases too, ones that I wasn't fortunate enough to help out because we had gained a new patient and mom was a patient too. They were both struggling with dad's abuse, the husband's abuse. And that Friday he came in to seek help. Mom came with him, his girlfriend. He had a mild support system. And so he wanted to come back in and start having, therapy, start being treated for, things that he was facing, like his inner demons. That weekend, it's right before Christmas, he ends up shooting his dad, killing him, and then turning the gun on himself and killing him. It made the news, and that was heartbreaking because we had a chance. He was so close. He was willing to come back in. That's one of those cases that breaks my heart because you could see that him and his mom were wanting more help. It was too late.
So in that line of work, did you work with a lot of people involved in the criminal justice system, like guys getting out of prison or women, or just even going through that? Not
as much. We had a lot, but a lot of them were drug cases. We had one. He tested positive for everything. So the doctor I had worked for specialized in, addiction, things like that. So the one guy came in, tested positive for everything. And I was like, okay, let's get your, drug test done and all this other stuff. And he's at the window, hey, eyes about pop out of his head. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, calm down. He goes, you don't tell me to calm down. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. He goes, I'm gonna snap your neck. I'm like, I'm just like, do it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. His girlfriend pushes him out the door, but his face was like, well, this girl ain't playing around. This was his 4th time coming back. He had served 3, he has 3 prison numbers. And he ended up coming back. And I said, hey, how are you doing? Good. I was like, you remember me? He's like, so I told the doctor, I was like, he's no longer mad at me. He goes, well, yeah, he went blue a couple of times. His memory's shot. I'm like, got it. So I faced a couple of them where they're trying to tower over me. And I wasn't a black belt yet.
Yeah, tell the audience about your little karate career.
So I'm a 2nd-degree black belt. And that's how I caught a felonious assault charge.
Which we'll get to later in the episode. So what was your opinion on like the criminal justice system, people that were in the prison system? Like, did you have one growing up?
Before?
Yeah, before, and even in your role, I think that's what makes it even more interesting that you were in that psychology field before.
So before school, before the psychology, putting it all aside, I'm like, well, people in prison are dangerous. They need to stay there. That, my naive mind, my simple mind, none of them should leave, blah, blah, blah. And so I had just finished up school for psychology. A lady I used to work with in the medical field back in like 2007, 2008, she would come into work bruised, purple, yellow, like you could see new bruises, old bruises. She was miserable. Her husband was beating her. And about 2017, if I remember correctly, she ends up killing her husband. And I'm like in shock, but not in shock, but it's the fact she dismembered his body, kept it inside. So her son, there's audio recordings from 911 where the son came home from a university, left his keys back at the university, which is like a couple hours away, climbs in through the window, smells, it's in that particular room from what the article and everything says, and it smelled bad. He goes, "Mom, what is that smell?" "That's your father." I'm not kidding. It's all there. I was like, and I hate to say this, good riddance to him. Like, I wish she could have afforded, to divorce him, and it came to that, but I don't feel bad for him. Like, she was relieved, and I ended up running into her in prison.
She was at the prison you were at?
Yeah, we're in the same housing unit.
And who called the cops? Do you know? The kid did?
Her son.
The son called the cops?
Yeah.
And what, did she end up getting life or something? Or
I don't remember. I didn't want to ask her, but I remember reading about it. But that was years before my experience.
It's always interesting, like going into prison and running into someone that you read about, like Joe Giudice from the Housewives I was in prison with.
Oh.
Yeah, he was on my side. So on the visiting room, you would see like Teresa and his family and stuff, and I would stand in front of him on the lunch line. Sometimes, like I had the Us Weekly news or magazine, so you'd see him on the headlines of it, and he's literally there.
God.
It's pretty crazy.
There's a lot of cases that I saw. I was like, oh my gosh, that's her. That's her. You don't want to say like celebrity, but it's the media. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember. But like when she did a psychological evaluation, the lady that I used to work with, and I feel like when I saw her behind bars, she was relieved, and I did not feel bad that he was killed. I mean, for the kids' sake, yeah, I felt bad that they're without a dad, but there is nothing there's things she could have done, but she was at her wit's end and took care of it herself. Controversy, like, to that.
How long were you in the psychology field for?
Oh, so technically since 2000, well, before I even graduated high school, since 2005, 2006.
And then did you stop because of your case, or did you stop because you wanted to do something different?
Once I got a conviction, I stopped.
Oh,
I was still working in the field, even though I had that pending. I was working for Department of Children and Families. Never once have I been in trouble for violence or anything. I probably got written up for being late or calling off. That was it.
So to put into perspective, you were never in trouble. You never had problems with addiction or anything like that up until what happens to you happens.
So I had my break when I decided to pick up and move to Florida is where I fell off being a good role model. I was just the custody battle, things like that. I fell off at that point in 2019. So I was taking benzos and drinking. So that's where I was like, I like this feeling. I did. And I didn't admit it for a while, but I was like, it's a quick way to be drunk. And the amount of medication I was on, like they prescribed it for panic attacks. The psychiatrist had me on 90 milligrams of Adderall a day too.
Wow. So mix that with the benzos.
That's like fire and ice.
How were you first exposed to benzos? Like, why did you choose to go to that?
My son's father has a history of, he doesn't have like a record or anything, but he's put his hands on me. And so when we were switching my son out, back and forth, facing him was terrifying. I didn't want to. It was like I would stay still, like didn't want to face him. So they're like, well, we're going to give you benzos over top of the trazodone you're already on. And a whole different feeling.
And you were still actively working in your field as well while on that?
So I didn't take them while I was in the field. During COVID, where I was working around the clock, where I was living at work with my dogs, that's when I started taking them more. Most people had gained weight during COVID. I had dropped almost 20 pounds. I went from like 128 down to like 103, 104. I was miserable. I didn't get to see my son, nothing.
And no one around you was taking notice to that to say, hey, are you okay? Do you need any help?
No.
Oh, and I imagine all the calls, because this is COVID, or over Zoom and stuff, you were doing virtual?
No, I was, so the people so working in the field I was, so it was Department of Children and Families and Agency Persons with Disabilities too. So we worked together. So I was doing assessments for, people's activities of daily living, what they could do to live on their own, their limitations, like if they're wheelchair bound, if they're, going to need additional help, quarterly meetings. I ended up having to be more hands-on during COVID. And I have 4 people that I'm in charge of. All are different cases. I have to be exposed to them. I'm putting them, I feel like, in danger. Not being able to see my son over top of that, your boss would call, checking up, not coming to visit, obviously. I had to keep it together for all these people. But it's like once they would go to bed, like I would, have a benzo here and there and, alcohol, and then pass out, and then I'd wake up and do it all over again.
No, this was
the quickest way to pass out.
This was in Florida. How long did that go on for before you said, I'm packing up and leaving?
Well, I had no choice to pack up and leave. Well, so 2022, when I came back to Ohio for trial, that's when I had to come back unwillingly.
Oh, permanently?
Well, yes, but then I had permission after I got out to return because I was doing good. And then I got down there and I'm like, just things came back. And I was like, I thought I was going to make it down there again. And I was like, this is the reason I got worse. I wasn't around my support system. So I got approved after getting approved to go back to Florida, transfer probation back to Ohio.
Okay.
So end of September when the hurricane hit, Helene, we ended up moving up back to Ohio. The hurricane hit when we made it to Tennessee. So we've been back up here since like end of September.
So did you catch your case in Florida?
No, Ohio.
Tell people the timeline of kind of what happened, how you caught the case in Ohio, but you were living in Florida.
So June of 2018, I'd moved to Florida. And I did not handle it well, but I made it down there putting on a front. I really was. And if people down there are different. It's definitely like the Bible Belt. Like you could do, like if you're married, you can't say you're getting divorced. If you're on the verge of divorce, you couldn't be gay. That was frowned upon. So just seeing like, oh, you're not married and you have a kid, things like that. I'm like, thanks. Thanks for like labeling me. But I, kept it together. Made a lot of friends. I started drinking more because they went out. And then I came back to Ohio for my dad's birthday in April. So I stayed like, about a week or so at a time. I went to a club, about a couple days after his birthday. And it's somewhere where I used to work. And one of the exotic dancers introduced me to this girl she became friends with. And she got fired from this girl who'd only been there a week. I found out, rolling back, got fired from the other club for doing illegal stuff. This girl came after me. She tried to steal my purse from me, and I'm like, back off. Didn't do anything. I reported it to the manager. I'm like, hey, this new girl, she's an issue. So, then she's running her mouth all night, giving me these dirty looks. And this is the first time I mixed benzos and alcohol, 2019. And I'm just running my mouth. I was like, don't get dances from her. She's going to rob you. And we get in an argument. We were like, I'm just going off. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And she comes around the corner with a stiletto in her hand coming at me. And I block her with my right leg. And then I throw a punch and broke her nose. And then we go down the ground. People separate us. And her nose is bloody. And she's like, you stupid. You broke my nose. And I remember saying, I was like, I hope you have a warranty on it. Because she said it was her new nose. And sober me would not have said that, nor would I have started a fight. Or according to the courts, that's what I did.
But technically, she started the fight by that story.
Oh, they didn't care. They saw second-degree black belt, game over.
So what happens in the moments after you guys get split up? Do you leave? Do you stay? Do the cops come?
I told the manager, go check the video. She came after me. Then I'm standing there for like 45 minutes. And then he put the blame on me.
The manager.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Police come. I get arrested. I got to watch the video. I was like, this, you could tell I'm drunk. And it was bad.
Were you talking smack to the police? Like, were you acting out at all?
No. Nope.
And they didn't arrest her? They just arrest you?
So when you watch the video, they asked her to go to the hospital if she wanted to go because of that. 27 times they asked her. She said no. That didn't raise a red flag until the civil case, federal civil case.
Wait, why federal?
Because I lived in Florida, the club corporation's in Las Vegas, Nevada, and she lives in Ohio. So for it to be fair game, it became a federal case. 27 times she denied wanting to go to the hospital. They're like, well, then we can't arrest her. Then she went to the hospital, left against medical advice. She gave a Jane Doe ID.
Oh, so they didn't even actually have her name? Did they find her name during the trial and stuff?
Well, she has 6 different identities.
But there had to be a witness, right? A victim?
Well, going to just jumping over to the federal case for a minute, when she filed as a Jane Doe. This is a year and a half later she files. So we already knew her name because they pulled, the contract. They show everything, like what her name was at the time. And I'm not going to say it, so she, I'm actually writing a book on this because it's a nightmare. So when the civil case when we were doing background checks, you could hire a private investigator. And, it's when you look her up for this case, it was fair game at this point. 6 different identities. 6. And she's never filed taxes. She never went to school, which contradicts her story on trial. But I'm like, I'm in shock. This is where I told you I started drinking. This is where I'm starting to drink more. I got stressed between work, and I, can't see my kid because of COVID. Then I get served with papers for the civil case, and I'm working on that. And I was like, are you kidding me? We don't even know who she really is. And like she has 3 different addresses. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, this is a nightmare. We don't even know who this girl really is. So
you get arrested that night. What happens after you get arrested?
I don't really remember much except try to procrastinate by going behind bars where like I drop, I'm crying. And the officer that's carrying me, he goes, girl, you got to help me. I can't carry you. He goes, come on, you need to help me. They took me to the hospital.
They took you to the hospital?
Yeah.
Why? Because you were sick or?
I don't remember. I don't remember why.
Okay.
They drew my blood. I was like, well, at least I have a hospital bed. Something worked in my head where I'm like, well, at least I have a hospital bed before I go to jail. I go, it's game over.
Who was your first phone call to?
So I had my dad's number memorized, but he didn't answer because he didn't know the number. So they didn't let me grab any numbers when I went to county. So a girl in county, or this is the city side at this point, she had someone, she was looking up someone on Facebook on the other end. So someone on the outside looking. And I said, hey, can you look up this person? Guaranteed to answer. So she does. Because I have no numbers besides my dad. My dad's not answering. So before she leaves, she goes, I got to give this to her. This is the number she was looking for. That she was like my saving grace there. So I got a hold of him. He called my dad, letting him know. Then my dad started answering. And then we connected with a friend of mine to get them, and then they bailed me out.
And how long after did this all happen? Like, when did you get bail? The next day or the same night?
Oh, no, because it was the weekend.
Oh, you were there all weekend?
I was, till Tuesday, because I forget, like, courts weren't open on a Monday for some reason. Mother's Day, I think. I don't remember. But
well, if it was April, maybe Easter?
No, this was beginning of May.
Okay.
So
Cinco de Mayo? No, that wouldn't have been a...
No.
They would have closed it first.
But it definitely felt like forever. And my friend who did the bond for me, he said it took forever. And it ended up, because my arraignment, it was a $5,000 bond. It wasn't a flight risk, whatever. So they paid the $500 some to get me out. So I think it was like the next day or later that night. I don't know. There's no windows. I don't know what time of day it is. And that's really a struggle. Oh, excuse me. And so I get out. I'm glad I had a little bit of a charge on my phone because I had to call, hey, I'm out, blah, blah, blah. Because you don't know when you're getting out, so you can't coordinate what's going on. I was like, don't embarrass me by showing up in one of your BMWs. Sure enough, he shows up in his BMW i8. And everyone's like, girl, I want to ride. I'm like, no, let's pack this stuff up and let's go. He goes, you didn't tell me. I was like, yeah, I did. Don't bring one of your cars. But I was just glad to get out of there.
What do you end up being charged with at arraignment?
Felonious assault.
And just one charge, one single charge?
Yeah.
And what was kind of your mental, what was going through your head during that arraignment and even just spend that weekend in jail? What did you think of the whole situation? Did you feel bad or did you think it was, kind of blown out of proportion?
I didn't know. I didn't know how to feel, except I got, my hopes up that, okay, by the time I get this out and that I got a bond, that's all I looked forward to. But I see other people in there, this one guy wearing red was in there for murder. And you heard it when he got a whole list of charges. He's not shackled up. He only has handcuffs in the front. But a guy with a DUI, 6'7", shackled up for just a DUI. And I was like, but the guy that committed murder only has handcuffs in the front, not shackled up.
What about you? Did they have you shackled up?
No, I wasn't even in handcuffs.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay.
Were there a lot of other women in the holding center that weekend?
If you mean a lot, more than 10, yeah.
Were you getting to know them or are you kind of keeping to yourself?
Well, I was going through withdrawal, so I barely came out unless it was to make a phone call. So I woke up screaming one night because I just felt this pressure. So the CO, this is the only CO that gave a shit. So they took me to medical. The doctor did give me benzos back in 2019. They didn't when I went to county after my conviction or my verdict. And but they gave me medication, benzos. So they're like, this is the only time we'll be able to because you are prescribed that. So I was sitting down there for a while in pain while they went through my medical records. And I don't remember too much of it. I just know he had permission to give those to me because I was prescribed that. And I get back, pass out. Not even an hour later, the detective comes and interviews me. And I'm like, this is insane. It is 3:00 in the morning when the CO comes and gets me out. I'm like, what time is it? And he said 3 something. I'm like, this is insane. So the detective decides to interview me in the middle of the night while I'm medicated. And I was like, you can't use anything. My mouth I was like, you can't, hold this against me. I was like, I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but I saw the video and it was embarrassing. You could tell I was high. And so I get up and I was like, I'm done with this interview. He goes, you better sit down. I'm not done with you. I was like, I'm done with you. And I was like, I'm ready to go back to my cell. I remember that, seeing that video.
Oh, they had this all on tape? This all came up? Wow.
Oh, yeah. I was like, dude, you can't interview someone under the influence like that, a detective, from my understanding.
So now, did the article about you get released right after you got out, or would that come later on?
It happened like shortly after I got out.
What did you think when you were looking at that article, looking at your mugshot, or people talking about it in your like dad's circle?
God. So it didn't come out until this is where I thought there was something weird about this. This guy reached out to me on Facebook before the article came out, talking about this girl that I got in a fight with. She's trying to extort me for $20,000. Going through him to extort me for $20,000, she dropped the charges. I was like, the state took it. There's no way, whatever. So she was trying to extort me for $20,000 before the article was released. They did that. I don't want to say her particularly. That article came out right after she tried to extort me for $20,000.
You think like they reported with what happened and then they looked at because not every arrest makes the news.
Oh yeah, it was embarrassing. Like I was sick to my stomach when I saw that. I didn't know what to say.
Did your job find out about it right away?
No, I mean, this is Florida. This is Ohio news. They didn't know anything.
Well, sometimes things like this go viral, especially during that time period.
Yeah, it didn't make it down to Florida.
Okay.
Like, no one said anything. The only people that knew are the people I told.
Oh, so none of your friends saw it from Ohio or anything like that? You got lucky.
I did, especially working for the state.
The Great Rewards Hunt is waiting. Massive jackpots, exclusive games, and weekly bonuses are calling your name. And if you're a new player, you get 500 casino spins on a featured game. Just sign up with code Ian Bick and wager $5 to claim yours. Play now at DraftKings Casino. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Connecticut and Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins valid for featured game only and expire in 168 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends 4/27/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. So then what happens after that? Or what does your dad say to you? Or are you guys trying to figure out a game plan?
Yeah, we get an attorney. And he's supposed to be really good. No, he's not. Dragged the case out for a while. I ended up getting him suspended. So I didn't know I had a plea deal. He turned it down for me, saying we're taking it to trial. I would have taken the deal. Like, I thought, looking at all aspects of it, I'm not going to get out without a felony. That's what I was told. So I would have taken it. He goes, this video shows she came at you, blah, blah, blah. So this is everything we have together to go to trial. But because of COVID, it kept getting pushed aside. And it was frustrating. So frustrating. So found out that he forged my signature, forged what I said about the plea deal, that I turned it down, and I didn't. Because that came out during my verdict. Well, you should have taken the plea deal. What do you mean? Then I saw my dad and I went through it, and he sent me the documentation during lockup that apparently I agreed, and I never knew about it.
What was the plea deal for after finding out?
It was like an F4 or an F5
Any
for assault.
Jail time or no?
Even with this, if I didn't take it to trial, it would have been like 3 years probation or something.
Yeah, because jail time seems a little bit extreme for this. So can't you get the verdict tossed out now on appeal? Can't you?
It's an appeal.
Oh, it is an appeal.
Yeah, I just got to follow up.
Oh, so you got a pretty good chance of maybe turning it around for ineffective counsel.
Yeah, because when I got this attorney off my case, I had 48 hours to prepare for trial with a new attorney that the judge assigned.
Oh, so this came out, the plea deal thing came out that when you kicked him off right before trial started?
So the plea deal came with the first attorney.
Okay.
But, I didn't know about it. The second attorney that was assigned to me didn't bring it up either. I don't know. He was kind of thrown on the case, so he didn't know. And as one of my friends who works in the courts, he goes, "You got a dinosaur attorney. This guy's so old." And I was like, yeah, you're right. So we had 48 hours to prepare for trial. He gives me the stack of paperwork that's for counsel only. And I saw her obsession of her stalking my Facebook page, my Instagram, my TikTok, everything. And made me more sick to my stomach knowing she invested that much time into me. And I was like, this is insane. So we didn't, the civil case was already closed at this point. So it shows she lost. It was 2021. They closed that up real quick. She didn't get any money. She tried to sue us for $500,000. Didn't get anything. She had no valid proof, nothing. That should have been brought up in court that she didn't have a case. She lost. That wasn't brought up. Nothing.
Oh, so even with your conviction, she still lost a civil case, because normally when they get a criminal conviction, it kind of carries over.
But the conviction didn't happen until after.
Ah, so she kind of jumped the gun for all the lawsuits and everything.
Yeah, filing as a Jane Doe.
Yeah, she should have just kind of waited it out. So how much time passed between your arrest and the actual date of trial?
3.5 years.
Wow. And they still gave you jail time after all this. So you're living in Florida these 3.5 years?
Yeah. So from the time of the arrest, over 3 years before I came back up for trial.
And you're just doing court appearances over Zoom?
No, I had to come up.
Every single time over those 3 years?
Oh, yeah.
But I thought that COVID's going on. Why didn't...
They didn't care. I even asked to do Zoom.
Ugh.
My attorney, before I wanted to dismiss him, before I found out what he did, he came to file a motion for continuance, to just shove it a little more, a little more each time. And he wasn't prepared for this. And the judge even said, "I hope when you come to trial, you're better prepared than you are now," to him. I was like, I'm screwed. I simply said, I'm screwed. I need to figure out what's going on and either, speed up this process, put a fire under his ass, or get a new attorney and just keep delaying this. I didn't feel like I was going to win at all.
So trial happens. Is the defense that it's self-defense? Is that what you guys are looking at?
Yeah.
That's your guys' argument?
Yeah.
How long does this trial go for? And is there a jury or is it a judge
There's
trial?
There's a jury with only one guy on the jury. Only one man on the jury.
Why, you think more men would have helped you?
I have no idea. I just didn't care at this point because, having a new attorney and nothing to prepare for, I was like, I'm screwed. I knew. So trying to calm my anxiety, I was taking more than I should for, benzos to calm my nerves. And that didn't help me when I went to the stand. I'm just like, I didn't care.
You testified while you were high?
Yes, I did.
Ugh.
I was so miserable at that point. Just everything. Just felt like my life was on stand-hold. But I'll tell you what, when I went to prison, then got out, felt like, when I was locked up, I actually felt safer behind bars. So no one was bothering me on, the outside because this girl was still harassing me, sending people to me to harass me. I got threats from people that she's connected with. Say, you better plead guilty. You better plead guilty. You're guilty. I'm like, what are you going to do virtually? You're just, you're threatening me. You're just an internet bully. I wouldn't respond, but it's people she was connected with.
You guys didn't bring this up at trial?
Yeah, tried to. It was dismissed. It was pushed to the side.
So how long did the trial last?
Not even a whole day.
Wait, the whole trial was not even a whole day?
Yeah.
The jury comes back with a verdict right away?
Yes. So, with the way,
you got hosed.
I did. But with the way, it went, you can tell that it wasn't going to take long to say guilty. So I walked my happy butt across the street to this taco place, had a drink, too, and came back. I was like, I know I'm going. I was like, I might as well go while I'm drunk.
And you knew that there was no bail after you were convicted?
They literally took me to county as soon as it was, they said guilty.
Wow. And then how long was sentencing after that?
I had to wait like 3-4 weeks. 3 weeks before sentencing.
Okay.
I got sentenced twice.
What do you mean twice?
So, mind you, I'm in withdrawal at this point. Like, the medication, like, they, like, took me off everything. I was on a lot because of other medical issues that I needed surgery before this, and the judge kept saying no. I had to go to a neurologist for something that I have, and I needed it taken care of because I could lose my vision because of it. He said no, so there's a lot of pain management for this. So I was withdrawing, and they were minimizing, other ones because they wouldn't allow certain medications, in the jails. They gave you the bare minimum. So I went to county. I didn't have my medication yet either, so they took me to the courts. And I'm sitting in the bullpen, and I'm hungry. I didn't get to eat, nothing. They didn't bring food. And I get taken up all the way to like the 17th floor. And they bring me in, and he's going over stuff, and he's telling me this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I wasn't really like paying attention. And he says something. He goes, well, do you have anything to say? And I'm like, what? He goes, aren't you going to apologize? I'm like, no. I was like, I have nothing to apologize for at that time. He goes, well, something. He said something else. And I said this was unfair, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I don't want to hear it. You shouldn't have moved to Florida. Something brought up to where you shouldn't have moved to Florida before this. I'm like, well, if you would have read the docket and, looked into this before you came to court, if you were prepared, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. So we went off. The next day they bring me back because I got 4 years at that point. He brought me back the next day to add 2 years to that.
So he gives you 4 years in prison.
4 to 6 years. I got the tail end of it too. So
4 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Over one
because
fight.
of my mouth. It was because of my mouth.
How much time do you think you would have gotten if that spat didn't happen? Do you think you would have just got probation even afterwards? Or?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Sometimes it doesn't pay to be sassy,
I know. Like, I was at that, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I just felt defeated, and that's what they want you to feel like.
How did your job find out? Did you ever, I
told them.
During trial, or?
Yeah, I told them.
You
They're
didn't,
like, well, let us
call them
know.
from prison and say, hey,
no, I told them before. I talked to them before, and I was like, you're going to trial, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, let us know. And, they were very supportive about it. And they knew, like, after I told them, they're like, it's sad to see you go. I wasn't fired, but, it was a mutual agreement.
It's just so crazy that your whole life can be upended over one incident. Like one little split second decision, everything changes forever. Yeah,
it does.
So now you get sent to county jail. Tell us, your whole jail experience.
Oh my gosh. So after getting medically cleared, after I called the county morgue because it was so cold in there. And you have single cells, things like that. I get to the trustee pod. Lo and behold, I'm apparently 60 days in. I'm like, what's that? I hadn't seen the TV show yet. And they're like, you're a confidential informant. You're a plant. And I'm like, what do you mean? Even the COs are saying this. And like, they'd pull me, to do the fingerprints, how do we get blood drawn, things like that. They're like, oh yeah, you're 60 days in. I know, I know. And you like, we know, like things like that. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, don't play stupid. So like, I'm getting hounded that I'm 60 days in. I was like, what makes you think I'm 60 days in? You're white. You got all your teeth. And so there's no way you can prove that you're not. I was like, if I was, I would have left already. But it's because I got pulled out for sentencing twice. So they thought I was going back for an interview. So I had watched an episode. They're like, 60, you got to watch this. This is what they called me. 60 days in, you got to watch this. And I'm like, so
did they ever figure out that you weren't on 60 days in?
No, they still think I am. There's some of them that friend requested me on Facebook. They're like, so when's it going to air?
That's funny.
So I finally watched an episode, And this one tall, big guy was going. You can tell he was white, but he had a nice tan. Like, it looked good on him. Like, he looked like he did not belong behind bars. He was not going to blend in. And they're like, yeah, they might figure you out real quick. And they're like, why is that? You're white with all your teeth. I'm like, there we go. So I get it.
Were they still being nice to you? Did anyone like mistreat you during that time period you were in county?
So they were giving me a hard time. They were bullying me. I was keeping my cool. And then this girl stood up for me. She like went off on them. Like, don't be jealous, leave her alone. Like, she was going off. They all shut up. They're like, do not mess with her, blah, blah, blah. Well, they still were to a point. But when I got sentenced again, I came back and I punched the brick wall by the phones and I shattered my left knuckle. And everyone shut up at that point because they're asking how your sentencing went and things like that. They're like, oh, she ain't kidding. But rewind, before that, they looked up my case on LexisNexis, saw the civil case. This is where I realized some of them are really dumb because they're like, your case closed in 2021. And I was like, that is a civil case. They didn't get what civil and criminal meant. And I'm like, how do you not know when you're a repeat offender and you're bragging in the trustee pod, you're a repeat offender? So then when they saw me punch the wall and saw that, I had blood coming from my hand, they took me down, to get it fixed up. They just wrapped it up, things like that. And then the CO's like, it's not someone you want to mess with because they're unhinged. And I'm like, how dare you say that? Like, if, I get it now why she said it. But she kept picking on me, saying I was 60 days in. So she'd fall asleep at the desk. And it's all on camera. They're not doing anything about it. Well, there's this girl that was having frequent seizures. She fell, busted her head. Next day, she fell and busted her head, and the CO was sleeping. I kicked the chair out from underneath the CO. I was like, 60 days in, my ass. That's what I said. And they're like, oh, shit. They're like, 60 has some, guts in her. And I'm like,
I'm going to start calling you 60.
No.
I'm changing your contact in my phone to 60. Yep, it's getting changed. Wait, so in your mind, like when you're watching all these people, because there's a lot of characters, lot of characters, and coming from your psychology background, are you kind of like diagnosing each individual in your head in a way, or?
I just generalized it. I'm not, professional to do that. I'm like, you just addict. There's nothing I can do but try and not let it bother you, because when you react, they're going to react. They're getting a rise out of you. Prison's where it really, the amount of bluffing I did in prison. Me being able to read body language and being able to keep my cool, but underneath I'm sweating bullets for some of the things I've said and done to get people to not bother me or tempt me, where they a couple of them, because they'll look you up. They look you up on the outs. And when they found I was a felonious assault, some people want to challenge you. And, there's a couple times I've been challenged.
Yeah, tell us that first time you got challenged, tried in prison.
So I'm in general pop after admissions. And so I'm sitting next to a girl that was in county with me for killing a police officer.
Casually.
Yeah, and we both had the same judge. I'm like, oh, great. So she's telling me about her story and everything. So we're just sitting there, and she's like, ooh, you're cute, and all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, no. She's 19. I'm in my 30s. And I'm like, oh, no. No, you're closer to my kid's age. So I'm sitting there talking to her, and this girl comes up. She has this big gap between her teeth. And the reason I say this is because my smart-ass comment after this, she goes, why you hitting on my girl? Things like that. I'm like, and then the girl that she's talking about, she's like, what the? I'm not your girl. And she goes, ooh, what are you going to do about your little white girl? She goes, just trying to egg me on. She goes, wonder if I beat your ass, things like that. I was like, honey, you can't hurt a masochist. I said that. She's like, oh, shit. And she goes, "You're psycho." And I'm like, I'm profusely sweating at this point. I have a white t-shirt on, even though you're not allowed wearing those yet. You have to be in your states. Like, I got sweat all over because I'm bluffing. I was like, "You can't hurt a masochist." And she said something. I was like, "Don't let me forget to make that gap bigger between your teeth." She walked away, and everyone's like, "Oh, shit." Little white girl means business.
Did you ever get into any fights?
No.
You never had to fight?
No, but I stopped my after I filed my judicial, I stopped my bunkie from coming out of the room after all the crap she put me through.
Why? What would she do?
So she wanted to, she wasn't bullying me around. Like, people were like, "Oh my gosh." I'm going to call her Pee-wee. That's going to be her nickname. Pee-wee, she tried to bully me. She has 12 years for the amount of drugs she had on her. It was a drug case. And, they pulled over $250,000 out of her house and in drugs, like, long story short. So she thought she could run our cell. I got moved to max security because of my being a violent offender. Technically where I was max security. So I'm in this, it's a 2-person cell. And she was, trying to bully me around. And I'm just like, She was just getting on my nerves. And my smart ass mouth was, I was very humble at this point because there's people that could kick my ass. Or I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going to do anything." I'm trying not to. I want to get out of here. So it's like her moods were like all over the place. And I was like, "It's getting crowded in here. You and your 14 personalities." And she's running her mouth. And she's on the phone with her boyfriend. She goes, "Do you know that apparently I have 14 personalities?" And he goes, "Well, I know 7 of them." "Fuck you," like 2 of them. And I was like, "See, someone else agrees with me that you have multiple personalities." So she wanted to switch bunkies. And I'm like, "I would love to, but like, whatever. I'm not trying to press for this." So she goes to the sergeant and tells him I'm racist. Mind you, this girl is white as well. Says I'm racist. And so he pulls me down to the office and he's like, "So, you have something against us? You mean a CO? Or like, in general?" He goes, "My color." And I was like, "No, my fiance is black." I didn't know what to say because he's trying to think, going off what my bunkie said. He goes, "She's saying I'm racist." I was like, "No, my fiance is black." "Ooh, they lying on you then. They lying on you." And I'm like, whoo, another bluff moment. I'm not racist, but how do you say that? No, I'm not racist.
Yeah.
And I'm not, but I was like, "No, my fiance's black." So I told my best friend, I was like, "Hey, I'm using your husband, a picture of your husband, say he's my husband." They're like, "All right, we got your back."
Now, how are the guards treating you?
They didn't really bother. There was one, but he was never in our unit. But when I first got to max security, this like heavyset guy, like we're getting ready to get interviewed by the white shirts, the sergeants, things like that, to make sure we're not gang affiliated. They want to know what tattoos we have, all that. So I come out of my cell and he's already looked me up at this point. And he's already labeled me 60 days in. And I'm like, "Not again." I've gone through part of my sentence and once I got to prison, without being called 60 days in. So this tubby little white guy is calling me 60 days in. I'm like, "Oh, we're not doing this again." I'm like shaking. I was like, "No, this can't happen again. This can't." So he knew he did a thorough search of me, which I kind of figured COs do that, but he saw that I was a second-degree black belt. My profile's not public to where you could easily see something like that. And I don't have a profile picture of me with my belt on. So he found out. And so he would, "Hey, 60. Hey." And I'm like, "Oh, no. No, we're not doing this." But he was cool. After a while, he didn't bother me. Anytime he was on our unit, he goes, "Hey, 60. And I'm like, "Stop it."
Good old 60.
Yes.
What was going through your mind when you got that sentence and then made it to the prison? Are you like, "Wow, I have to spend 4 to 6 years here"? Obviously, you got out sooner, but when you first heard of that sentence, what's your mindset?
I was like, my life is over. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, my life is over. I go, I'm not going to say goodbye to my my kid, my dogs, my dad, my friends. I was like, it's over.
Did your dad come visit you?
He couldn't. He was in Florida because I had just moved him down there with me after he got divorced. I was like, you can come live with me. Moved him all the way across the country to come back because they said you're only going to get probation. That's what they said. They didn't say anything else. So I expected just to get probation.
Until you pissed the judge off.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not proud of it now. If I would have thought about, that, I wouldn't have done it, but I wasn't thinking.
So how long were you in this maximum security prison for?
So I spent a total of 8 months in prison. Well, 4 weeks in county, 7 months in prison.
Why so short of a time when you got a 4 to 6 year sentence?
Judicial. If I could file for early release within 6 months after I've served my time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got released. It's not like pending an appeal or anything like that. It's just you get out early.
Yeah, so you go in front of the judge and not parole. So
and he was okay with letting you out?
Yeah.
So what was the purpose of giving you the 4 to 6 year sentence anyways?
Exactly. Now I was very apologetic then.
Do you think you made a change like in yourself and your behavior?
Yeah, where I was always like considered myself one of the guys. Like my mentality, my work ethic, my hobbies would be like not normal for a girl. So when I was spending time behind bars watching football, when we had this, TV on, I would tell I'm like, shh, until commercial. And they're like, she's such a guy. Like something about not considering their feelings, things like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, I was a little more self-centered than I thought. Being sober and having to mingle with people and listen to their stories. I became more open-minded, and I realized a lot of people didn't have I don't want to say a fair trial, but they weren't educated to understand things. A lot of them didn't finish high school. Like there was a waiting list for GED. There's a lot of people in there for, killing kids, their husbands. And there's some that, the one that covered up her son was murdered by her boyfriend and she took the heat. And there's how people lose everything, like their home, their family, their support system. And when they get out, they go home to nothing if they don't have that. I was fortunate enough to have that when I got out. But like one of the girls I became close to, she still has like 3 years or something like that. She's a repeat offender, but she helped me a lot to understand. And I had a whole nother nickname in prison. So it goes from 60 to something else, which I'll get to that in a minute. And she lost her trailer, her family, her support system, because she admitted she used them, took their money, things like that. So there's a lot of them that said when they were under the influence, they didn't care. They were just getting their next fix. And them being sober behind bars, they say that behind bars that they're going to, have it together, but they admit what they've done. But it's what you're going to do moving forward. You can admit it all you want, but actions speak louder than words. But you made the first step admitting what you did. What are you going to do? I said I wasn't going to drink because that was, part of my probation, violation, that would put me on house arrest or, send me back to finish my sentence. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. First thing I did when I got out, I started drinking, and I tested positive for alcohol when I went to my first probation meeting.
How'd they test you for that?
Urinalysis.
Okay.
Had to drop urine.
And did you get violated or?
They gave me a warning because it was my first time. Next time wouldn't.
Wow.
So I got lucky my first time.
Wait, so do women, you said you were watching sports, but is that a big in women's prison? Do they watch sports like the men do? And do they sports gamble too?
Yeah, they do. Like, so this is when Kansas City and the Eagles, they went to the Super Bowl the first time. I got to watch that. Yeah. I was sitting behind bars watching this game. So they actually allowed us, because some of us were on good behavior, where we could have a trivia, to do football stats and things like that. We were able to, as long as we were supervised. we were able to play a trivia game about football. And when my nickname was Boobles behind there.
Boobles?
Boobles.
Why Boobles?
Because of my chest. Yeah.
Boobles.
Yeah. So they're like, hey, Boobles. Like, they didn't realize how smart I was. Like, and, I liked football. And so I started naming things off. They're like, oh, she needs to be a part of this. She needs to be a part of this. She's going to do this trivia stuff with us. Sure enough, I was part of that whole group that did all the, sporting stuff. But it was, we played trivia. We talked a lot. I learned to play spades, so we would talk football.
You play spades?
Yes.
Oh, my God. That's
I hated
funny.
that game.
I love spades.
I'm over that.
Do you still know how to play?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to play, nor did I really care to play after I got out.
That's so funny. You're up on all the prison lingo.
Yeah.
I feel like I got to marry someone that went to prison just so like they can relate to all of that they know all about the prison stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want someone that's like, I guess not really ambitious that went to prison, like someone that's like still on drugs or something. I don't know, but it would be funny.
Or you know what 6'5" is, right?
No, what's 6'5"?
6'5" is be on the lookout.
That's what we called it bajando.
Bajando?
Yeah, like the Spanish guys would yell bajando when a cop was coming.
No. So we called it 6'5". So I'd watch people watching out for others. And like, you can't, like when you see like typical behavior, you have like one CO per like 100 girls. But like, how like being around them all the time, especially when it's your unit as a CO, like, when certain ones it's out of character and you're not supposed to close your cell door or put the curtain up, even though you're not supposed to. Like, I watched some of the people that were 6'5" and like, they're looking like this. I'm like, yeah, that's not suspicious or anything. They're like, hey, can you 6'5" for me? Can you 6'5"? That's what they would say.
And now most of the time, is that just them like hooking up with someone?
Oh, yeah.
That's all it really
yeah.
is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you say is like the number one TV show women like to watch in prison? If you had to narrow it down to like one show, what's the most popular one?
True crime. Because we had tablets. So a lot of them would look each other up because on court TV and things like that and true crime, there's a couple people that we were locked up with that are on those, like FBI files.
48 hours or first 48?
Yes, and court TV. And then there was like big ones that it's crazy. Or the Monsters Inside Me, where like the bacteria or bugs that are in people's bodies. That was another one. Wow. And then sports. Surprisingly, a lot of people watch sports.
Yeah, so that is reoccurring against men and women that people incarcerated like to watch other crime shows. Like they would be watching Love After Lockup or just any type of prison show. And it's like, you're literally in prison. Why are you watching this?
Well, my thing, like my bunkie before we had a falling out, well, one of the last bunkies I had because they moved me around. I was like, I liked the one bunkie I had. Like her and I were cool. Like she had my back. And people loved her and she would hustle them. Hey, Bunky, you want, snacks? I'm like, yeah, sure. She goes, I got you. I'll be back. And to bring me snacks. Like getting them from like another inmate that had a crush on her or like, wanted her or something. And I was like, I loved having her because I didn't have to get anything from Commissary because she'd just bring it to me. She goes, I got you. So, what was it? So, between TV, like we had our tablets. I watched, was it something about shooting where like about marksmen and how good people are like in, obstacles. And I also watched catfishing, I don't know what it was called, but it's about catching these big catfish with your bare hands. Mm-hmm. And then big shrimping. Like I watched all these things about hunting, fishing, things that I enjoyed doing when I lived down south. And my bunkie's like, you're going to be ready to go hunting, shooting, fishing when you get out of here, you redneck. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. But it's, between documentaries and that, I don't want to watch brain rotting stuff. I'm already sitting in here. What else am I supposed to do? I don't.
Did you have a job?
I worked in the kitchen.
Oh, I worked in the kitchen too.
I hated it. I hated it.
Oh, what did you do? Like, were you like a cook or a baker? Or...
Oh, no, I got to wash dishes.
Oh, that's all you did?
Yeah.
Did you smuggle out stuff at all? Or
No, I didn't. They search you before you leave. You get the pat down everything. You can't sneak anything out. You have to snap your bra to make sure nothing's in there. And some of the girls that had bigger rolls and everything, they would tuck it under like the side boob and they'd get away with it. And I was like, it's nice to have those extra rolls, huh? Like,
how are the bras in prison?
Oh, they're like sports bras. Like, they're nothing. Like, if you don't have the hygiene box, it's just your basic sports bra.
Okay.
Very uncomfortable.
And tampons, are they like of a better grade or no?
Not at all. Not at all.
So they just give you like, what are?
Oh no, they were like dynamite sticks. Like, they were huge. Like, I was like,
So can you buy different brands?
No.
So you can only use those?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, you could buy underwear. You can buy underwear on Commissary.
But you can't buy different they should have different tampons, like in the men's prison, like with different razors. You could get a nicer razor. They should have that. Like,
you had two different brands of razors you could get.
Yeah, we had that too. And then the state issued one. And toilet paper, you get a nicer brand one on Commissary.
Yeah, and washcloths and things like that.
But they won't do tampon. Wow.
We got ice cream on Commissary.
Yeah, we had ice cream too. We had Ben and Jerry's.
Yes.
Yeah, every Commissary you can order one Ben and Jerry's.
I had Commissary on my birthday. So I got ice cream at like 8 o'clock in the morning, sitting in anger management, eating ice cream.
Yeah, because if you do the morning one, it sucks, the morning Commissary day. If you do the night one, you get that in the afternoon.
So I had I was sitting through anger management, eating ice cream, and one of my friends that was in anger management with me, I was like, you want some? I was on a sugar high. I hadn't had that much sugar in so long. I passed out. Most of my birthday, I was going to go outside and play kickball, all this other stuff. I slept through all that.
How do women work out in prison?
They actually had The Biggest Loser. They had this fitness program, The Biggest Loser. So they had equipment. They would bring out like medicine balls, things like that. So you can only use them, besides using the track. They had equipment in the gym that you could use when you had free time. But they had, the instructors, other inmates that would coordinate these workouts for The Biggest Loser. And whoever lost the most weight won a prize. Who showed most improvements, who showed up the most, what team. There were teams. So which team lost the most weight, things like that. I didn't need to lose weight. I just wanted to get out of the unit. So I didn't know then I needed to lose weight. But so I did the workouts, and it was either cold or very hot. There was no in between.
Now, were you surprised you got out as early as you did?
I was relieved. I was like, why couldn't it have been sooner? It wasn't like when they called me. So I had just finished an evaluation to drop down to a level 1 from a level 2. And I would have gone to minimal security prison, go from max straight to minimal security, where I could leave and, go to work, things like that. So the day before, when I got that evaluation, I was waiting to find out if I got approval so I could leave. Then I get called to receiving. So I was like, so am I going to another prison? No, I was going to court for my judicial. I was like, either way, I'm going to the same city. So I spend 10 days in county. And I was like, the drive to Cleveland from Dayton, the way they drove, and then they stopped and got like Popeye's chicken, and we had to smell that.
That's what they do in the feds too.
I'm like, this is insane. I was like, I felt my life flash before my eyes with the way they were driving. And there's the lady that had me was like a linebacker. She was huge, but she was actually really nice. But like we stopped for gas, and I was like, whew, I'm glad I'm sitting back here. She goes, you don't have to sit up here with him. Like, his driving was just reckless. I was like, I'm never going to commit a crime after this because his driving was reckless. And then the food, like I'm starving in the back and you guys are eating. And then we had to get to a rest stop. It's 3 hours into the drive. And normally they won't let you, but they let us because the guy in the back that came from another prison, we're both going to county. So they let us, we're at a rest stop. We're in purple pants, shackled, ankles, waist, wrist. And, being escorted to the bathroom, people were looking at us. And I was like, I'm really not going to commit a crime after this. This is embarrassing. So then made it to county and had to wait 10 days before I could leave. I was like, send me back to prison if I'm going to have to wait. I go, it is way better than county jail. So when I got back to county, they're like, 60's back. I was like, not again, not again.
So now you get out. What's that first day like of freedom? What did you eat? What did you do?
I had ice cream for dinner. I did. It was awesome. So my friend who I was staying with him when I came up for trial, we've been friends since, God, almost like about 15 years now. So, I called him to come pick me up and everything. And it was like, I was in tears. I jumped in his arms. I'm like, thank you so much for picking me up. I was like, I probably smell, but let's go. So we get on the highway. That's actually how my book starts, my exit out of county and seeing him and him handing me his phone to call my dad. And I'm like, I'm so-and-so and I am a convicted felon. That's how the first chapter goes. And so he goes, what do you want to eat? It's by the time I got, the day before is when they approved me to leave. Nothing's happening that day. I was like, why haven't I left yet? Why haven't I left? Come on, let's go. So I forgot my friend works for Probation. So I called my friend who I stayed with that picked me up. I said, go on my phone, find this number, call him, tell him to rush my paperwork. And he did. So the next day, they said I was leaving. I didn't leave for another 8 hours. It's like 9 o'clock at night by the time I got out. And then the ice cream place near his house was open till 10. And it's about an hour drive. So we went and got ice cream. He goes, you sure you don't want anything else? I'm like, large ice cream. I was like, that's all I want. And so made it back to his house. I jumped in the shower. I passed out on the couch. It was a relief. But hearing a loud TV made me jump with all the echoing and everything that I had to deal with and all the screaming. Like hearing the TV when it got loud, like I'm reacting because of that. I didn't realize how much of an effect it would have on me after I got out.
Now, what were your plans for work, for everything? Did you plan to go back to your old job or what did you want to do?
I still had a job in Florida. So I had a second job while I worked for Department of Children and Families. I got to work at a university in the events department. So I had texted them, my boss, when I got out, like, hey, they knew what was going on. I was like, do I still have a job? They're like, yeah, you're, still here. So I had a guaranteed job when I returned. Even though it was part-time, I still had a job. So I was like, whoo, at least I had something. And I ended up working for a security company after I got out of prison.
In Ohio or Florida?
Yeah, in Ohio.
Did you decide not to go back to Florida?
No, I had to get a job while I was, in Ohio. You have to be a productive member of society.
So what were you doing for the security company?
Unarmed security.
like a mall cop type of security, or like what?
No. So there was a couple. I did events where you checked bags and everything, like for it was Beer Fest. There was a bunch of events, concerts. The Jason Aldean concert. There was a couple concerts. Another university football game. This factory job, like this IT company, where you had to scan people coming in and out because they weren't allowed to bring in their phones or other things in the back. So, I got to, rotate of what I was doing, working nights, checking buildings, their security systems, things like that. So there was some interesting moments. It wasn't all boring. So we got to go into a school they were getting ready to tear down for squatters and things like that. Well, we chased a couple squatters out. My partner that was with me, who carries, big guy. So I'm the one running after them so I could get their information, things like that, and get the police to come. So, he was all the way behind. And if it wasn't, for me, we wouldn't have been able to identify these people.
How long did you end up doing this for?
So from July, so literally a couple days, weeks after I got out. So from July until November when I turned in my notice, when I got the approval to go back to Florida.
Okay.
They were sad to see me go.
So you moved back to Florida.
Yes. I thought I would be excited to go back, but I wasn't.
But you're not in Florida now, right?
Nope, I'm up here. In Ohio for good.
So you must only last in Florida than a few months going by this timeline.
Yeah, so before Thanksgiving.
Of last year? Or 2023?
2023.
Okay.
Through September of 2024.
You moved to Ohio, and what were you doing out there? Did you go back for the college, or?
No, I was still working in events at the university, and I still had my cleaning company, so I brought it down there. I had it in my dad's name, so I was a vendor through apartment complexes and things like that. So I still had that, but when it's so hot out, it makes it miserable to work, especially when they don't have the air on in these apartments. And you can tell how people live. Like, it's absolutely disgusting because they don't care. It's not their home. They're just renting. So I'll never rent an apartment again after seeing that.
Really? That bad?
That bad.
Ugh.
Like, there was more roaches in a house than there were people. That bad.
Jeez. So then you make it back to Ohio. What's life kind of look like for you now? So
I still have the cleaning company. Originally, it started up here. Years ago.
In Connecticut?
No, in Ohio. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Keep forgetting that, I drove the 7 hours here. So I still have it. I have people that do annual or monthly cleanings, and then I have big jobs that actually I still have a couple in Columbus. Like big jobs. I'm talking over $1,000. I'll make that 2-hour drive from Akron to Columbus to collect that money. And it's people I know. Like, these are condos, in Columbus that I clean for. But I do that like maybe once or twice a year because that's a lot of driving. So I don't have my SUV anymore. I sold that while I was locked up. That's how I was able to afford Commissary and everything. So I was living good. But I reconnected with a lot of people that I used to clean for. I still have some of them. So can't complain. I have new people too. Also working in construction, things like that, which I, started last week. I mean, can't complain.
Has the felony affected you at all?
Greatly. It's hard. You're a violent offender. Oh, sorry, we can't. That's hard. You feel defeated. You're a violent offender.
Do you rent an apartment now?
A house, actually.
Was there issues getting that because of that?
No.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of, the system discriminates who it affects and who it doesn't. Like, I've never been personally affected by it, except for when I rent private. If I were to rent privately, like on Facebook Marketplace, then if you say you have a felony because they're not doing the background checks or whatever. But on the corporate ones, I always get approved.
Really?
Yeah, it's never been an issue when I mark felony.
So with this place, originally it was an Airbnb. So we me and my roommate, we were looking for a place. I was like, well, before I make the move, let's find a place. So we were adamant. We were looking in Cleveland, Ohio. And, that's where she's from. And so I was like, well, let's look in Akron. It's cheaper. You get more for your money. So we rented this Airbnb in Akron. Has a fenced-in backyard, has a garage, a long driveway for all the vehicles we have. Well, she has. And the backyard, I got a dog that's very energetic, so it was perfect. And it's fully furnished. So we asked if we could rent it. So I didn't have to bring half the stuff back.
Yeah, I have friends that do that too. That's good.
And we're both on the lease. We got approved. She gave us an opportunity.
That's awesome.
So I was like, wow. I'm like, we've been blessed.
So what do you think is like the learning lesson you take away from all of this? Like, do you think you needed to go through this in hindsight looking at this? Like, did it change you for the better? Did it change you for the worse?
It definitely.
What's like your summary on it?
It definitely changed me for the better. It did. There's a lot of things I took for granted. A lot of things. And I was court ordered to go to AA. And I was so resistant to go. I was like, I have to. But hearing other people's stories, I was like, wow, I'm not alone with, some of the things I've done because I felt isolated being a felon for what I was, convicted of. Other people have that same journey and they're still working through things. And they know it's a daily it's a daily thing. One step at a time is what, they say. And they keep doing it. When I hear stories about sobriety, I went to a lead over on Saturday, someone that has 16 years, and they kept messing up. And I forget how old they are now, but 16 years they've been sober. So it's kind of like an inspiration hearing that whether you drink or not, or if you mean that you want to do good, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way. And people do it through sobriety, of course, but you realize you're not alone. And some of those people do inspire you.
No, go on.
Especially when, what was it? That they have very similar stories. Like some have multiple prison numbers, but they haven't stopped and they're successful. So the construction company, a lot of people are in recovery and have a record. They haven't given up. That has inspired me that I can keep going instead of giving up because I've wanted to.
And then you came across the show.
Yes.
Which is all those stories.
So funny when I got out and my old TikTok before it got hacked. And it was good. I had funny stuff on there. And you could see where I was an asshole on some of my content. I was like, ew, but it was funny. And I started a whole new one. And you came up. And I was like, oh, this is funny. Like, I just got out and now I see this stuff and I'm looking through and I was like, okay, I thought you were a lot younger than you were. And I was like, dang, I go, he's bad too. But he made something out of this, going from Whole Foods to this, look how well he's done. I was like, that's, admirable right there and making it to something big. I was like, so when I saw that and I saw the sheet to fill it out, I was like, what's it gonna hurt? And heard from you like months later, and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. So that's what I did.
That's so cool. And for everyone listening, I'm not as young as I look or as short as I look. Everyone's ripping me for that.
Yeah, I can. I know I'm short, but he's definitely taller than me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for proving everyone wrong. So, do you still suffer with addiction issues now, or have you overcame that and are in recovery? What does that look like?
So I haven't had a drop of alcohol. On the 25th will be a year.
Oh, congratulations.
So I haven't had anything to drink. I had what else? So everything. I'm thinking of everything that I've done between smoking weed, it's edibles, things like that. I haven't touched it in almost a year. And I was skiing not too long ago. I was all the way out in Denver. I got to the top of the mountain. I've already fallen a ton of times. I'm ready to give up. And they have alcohol. They have mimosas and everything. And those were my weakness. And I got there. I was like, oh, my gosh, I want one so bad. I'm in so much pain from all this falling. I was like, no, you can make it down the hill. You can make it down. And I didn't. But I didn't touch any of it. Like, the mimosas were my weakness. Looking at certain liquors, I'm just like, yeah, I did that. I know what I did on that. I got aggressive on certain alcohols. But I realized what I did. And I know if I do certain things again, it'll all be like all this hard work would be for nothing.
What do you think is the learning lesson you want others to take away from your story?
If you're going to go out drinking, if you're going to go out, do not go out with I'm trying to think, how would I say this? With a certain thought process, your ego, like keeping that in check. Like, when some people are like, oh, I look good. I'm going to go out. I got this. I'm going to strut my stuff. No one's going to turn me down. Like, they just had that mindset, overconfidence. And then someone rains on your parade. Doesn't matter if they're under the influence or not. Your senses are heightened. Take it down a notch. Go without expectations. Think before you act. And that is very hard because some people, like me, are quick at the mouth and very witty. So it's like, if you're gonna go out and drink, just pick and choose who you're gonna be around. If they're gonna be, a good time or they're more on the sketchy side, just be careful or just don't go do it. It's a lot. Everyone's different, so there's different perspectives on everyone.
Absolutely.
And what they view.
Well, Allie, thanks so much for coming on the show and making the drive to sit with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you did great. And hopefully it was therapeutic to kind of talk about it for the first time. And,
Yeah,
you know,
and with someone else who's, been to prison.
yeah, see, we don't judge over here, So, and brought back some memories seeing the prison cell and all that. So,
Oh my,
shebangs chips, baby.
oh my gosh, yes.
Well, thanks again. Safe travels back. And if you ever need anything, please let us know.